Good morning, friends and enemies. In today's video, we're going through the week 6 waiver wire, talking about every trending player, as well as sticking around to the end because we will let you know who we can drop off of our teams. We've got the Omarion Hampton injury. We've got some other tight ends on the come up right now. So we're going to break down everyone that you need to know, everyone that you need to bid on, everyone that you need to let your idiot league mates bid on in this video. All right, so we'll start off with the biggest story of the week as it relates to the waiver wire. It's Omarion Hampton heading to the IR. Now, we don't know the exact extent of the injury. It's apparently an ankle injury, which kind of suggests a high ankle sprain, but I do think there's a chance that maybe there's a slight fracture, and this could lead to a longer period of time. But I do think in terms of the waiver wire, not actually knowing the extent of the injury right now, we kind of have to imagine it's a 4 to 5 week injury, which leaves his backfield completely up for grabs between Hassan Haskins and Kimani Vidal. I will just say outright, I'm not overly interested in either of these guys. I think most outcomes lead to 4 weeks of both of these guys being relatively disappointing for you. And I think, each of them can have one good week down that stretch. Each of them could have games where they go 12 touches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. But in sit-start leagues and redraft leagues, when you're choosing between these guys, it's kind of a mess in the backfield right now because Hassan Haskins will likely be the early down guy. He'll likely be the goal line guy. That being said, through 5 weeks of the season, we have one running back touchdown inside the 5-yard line for the Chargers. Their offensive line is a fucking mess right now with no Rashawn Slater and no Joe Alt for the foreseeable future. So it's not like the running lanes are going to be there. Hassan Haskins is not a guy that creates yards for himself. Hassan Haskins went to Michigan. He played under Harbaugh there, so Harbaugh has this soft spot for him for whatever reason. Hassan Haskins, through 3 years, is averaging 3 yards per carry at the NFL level. So Hassan Haskins, is he capable of having a 14 carry, 60-yard touchdown day? Sure. Kimani Vidal profiles a little bit better as the pass catching back here. This is a Chargers team that's running an offense with the 4th highest pass rate right now. Okay. And that is 4th highest. They are behind only the Browns, the Dolphins, and the Bengals. And those teams are a combined 3-12 or something like that. So their record is the obvious reason why they're passing so much. They're always in that type of game script. The Chargers are making a very conscious choice to put the ball in Herbert's hands and let him sling the rock a lot. That's just not what Hassan Haskins does. He has 14 career receptions through 37 games. And unfortunately, Hampton got hurt kind of towards the end of the game, so we don't have a ton of a sample size here. They also put Trey Lance in for a point, so that was garbage time, and that's when Kimani Vidal got a lot of his snaps. So this feels like it's going to be a committee. It feels like Vidal will likely play the passing down role. This is a high passing volume offense at this point in terms of what they're doing in neutral game script. I also think there's a very real chance that they sign some sort of veteran because they got nothing on that depth chart right now behind Hassan Haskins and Kimani Vidal. Gus Edwards obviously makes a lot of sense, and he will throw an absolute wrench into this rotation. So I get it. It's easy to get excited about Kimani Vidal. We were excited about him last offseason as a 6th round dynasty guy, but he showed absolutely nothing last year. They went out and signed Najee Harris. They went out and drafted Omarion Hampton in the 1st round. Clearly, they didn't have a plan for Kimani Vidal to be anything on this team. Even with Najee Harris out for the season, Kimani Vidal was still in the practice squad until last week. If we knew that Hampton's injury was going to sideline him more than 4 weeks, if we knew this was going to be a Pacheco type of injury last year where he was going to be out for 6, 8, 10 weeks, then I would be more optimistic about putting down a larger fab bid on a guy like Kimani Vidal because that elongated period allows more types of opportunities to play out. It allows a longer runway, but we have 4 weeks pretty much to capitalize on this. And because there's so much uncertainty, the only reason why I'd even tell people to bid on them is because they're playing against Miami this week, right? Miami's a team that just got destroyed by the GOAT, Rico Dowdle. So there's a good chance that one of these guys has a good week, and then you're going to have to spend up for him on the waiver wire next week. The next 4 games, Miami, great matchup. Indy, not one to be terrified of. Minnesota's a good defense. And then Tennessee. So another great matchup for him there. If they miss more time, Pittsburgh is not a defense really to be scared of anymore. So they have a good schedule. I just think more often than not, you're going to pick one of these guys up. They play Miami. So if you got the balls to start them against Miami, good for you. They won't be in any of my starting lineups. And then they're at the point where they're not playing Miami anymore. So it's how do you trust any of these guys? So these are dudes where there's going to be a lot of headlines. There's going to be a lot of reports. It's oh, this guy could be the starter. This guy is upside. This guy's a PPR guy, whatever. These are dudes that I'm letting my league mates spend up on, to spend fab on. Again, if we knew that Omarion Hampton was going to be out for a longer period, if we knew that they weren't going to sign a veteran, that I'd be more open to dropping 15, 20, 25% of my fab on a guy like Vidal with some theoretical upside. And I definitely would lean Vidal over Haskins in this situation because, again, I think his skill set leans more towards what the Chargers are looking to do right now, especially with them getting the ball out really quickly out of Herbert's hands with this banged up offensive line. It's leading to a lot of dump offs to Hampton. I could see that being Vidal's role. But yeah, like I said, I just think like 90% of the outcomes over the next 4 weeks just lead to both of these guys being relatively disappointing and you not being able to choose when to start them, when to sit them. It feels a little bit like a bad version of the Texans backfield right now, where Hassan Haskins will be Nick Chubb, Kimani Vidal will be Woody Marks. It's going to be like who has the hot hand that week, who has the hot hand that day, who just happened to be in on the drive in the right situation when they're inside the 10-yard line. This guy just happens to be on the field. So it's going to be very, very unpredictable. And those are guys that I tend not to spend up on in redraft leagues. So that's my take on the Chargers. I got Vidal slightly ahead of Haskins. Both of them should absolutely be owned because there's a lot of opportunity to be had there, but don't overspend because the situation is murky. All these other guys are rostered in 60-ish or more percent of leagues. Brashard Smith is another guy to talk about here. We were excited. There was a lot of buzz and a lot of hope throughout the week talking about him getting involved more in the Chiefs offense. Unfortunately, on Monday night, the dude played only 6 snaps, okay, out of 64 offensive snaps for the Chiefs. So did not get more of a workload there. They still obviously trust Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco to be the 1-2 guys. They're looking at Brashard Smith as clearly just a gadget guy at this point. That being said, when he's on the field, he's getting plays directed towards him, right? 6 snaps last night, 4 touches, 3 targets on 6 snaps. So like the target per route run rate, phenomenal, not scalable. And we need to see him actually become something more than a gadget guy. Should be rostered in 12 plus team leagues, but you obviously can't play him now. I will say they do use him a lot in the red zone. They do use him sometimes inside the 10-yard line. So I would be surprised if his anytime touchdown prop does not cash at some point over the next 2 weeks. Kendre Miller would actually be my top running back ad this week. As odd as that sounds, I would probably prefer him to Kimani Vidal and Hassan Haskins. All of my waiver wire rankings, by the way, are available right now on BDGE.co. If you're a Big Dog member, you get the waiver wire rankings, which is exact fab suggestions for all of these guys in the order that I would prefer them. You also get my weekly sit start rankings. That's the only place they are available. And then every Saturday morning, I go live answering any questions that you might have for your lineup for that upcoming slate of games. All available only to the Big Dog members, BDGE.co. The cheapest way to get it, you can get a membership free for the next 3 months if you go to our partner page, either their website or their app, MGM. That will be linked down below. Deposit just $10 or more using code BDGE. Play any slip on there, and they're going to hit you with an in-app promo code message to use on our website, BDGE.co. 3 months free of the Big Dog membership. But yeah, man, I like Kendre Miller a lot. This is the first game that we saw. I mean, the snap counts were close, man. He saw 39%. I believe on Fantasy Life, he was actually up to 42%. And Alvin Kamara was down at about 53 or 54% of the snaps, which has to be the lowest total that he has seen in the last 4 to 5 years as the starter in New Orleans. This is the first game that Kendre Miller actually outcarried Alvin Kamara, 10 rush attempts to Kamara's 8. So Kendre is clearly a part of this offense. That being said, we did see Taysom Hill return. He saw 6 carries, throws another wrench into this backfield. When they get inside the 3 or the 5-yard line, you know they're going to have some plays dialed up for Taysom Hill to take those carries, which does zap into Kendre Miller's upside a little bit. I do think, again, the one exciting part about Kendre Miller is the theoretical possibility of Kamara getting moved before the early November trade deadline as a team that's not competing. You got a veteran that could help a team compete. You got to get rid of that contract for the future, all that kind of stuff. That's what makes Kendre a little bit exciting right now. But again, I don't think there's any running back on the wire right now that actually does overly excite me. The one dude not listed on here that I would very, very highly suggest you make sure that you roster is Isaiah Davis of the New York Jets. You know, similar spiel that I just had for Kendre Miller. I think Breece Hall is absolutely a trade candidate as well. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. If they don't want to pay him, there is a good chance that he is going to want to push to get traded before the trade deadline to a contender. And with Braylon Allen out for the foreseeable future as well, Davis would step into a massive role there. He's a good pass catcher. He's like 220 pounds, has a 3-down skill set, has a 3-down size. And this is a team that does give the running backs a lot of opportunities here. So Davis has a little bit of standalone value. He played around 40% of the snaps on Sunday. It didn't feel like that because it felt like Breece Hall was just, making plays every single time they turned him on red zone. But Isaiah Davis is running a lot of routes. He's playing a lot of snaps. Does not get a lot of carries, but he's always involved in the 2 and 4 minute drills. And again, he has the hypothetical huge upside if Breece Hall were to get moved before the trade deadline. So Davis is a guy that I absolutely want to be rostering in 12 plus team leagues. Moving over to the wide receivers, I mean, this is, I use the title Fool's Gold often because it works for a lot of people and they want to click on that shit, but this is actually the definition of Fool's Gold when it comes to the waiver wire. You have Ryan Flournoy for the Dallas Cowboys, who popped off on Sunday, career game, 9 targets, 6 catches, 114 yards, still only played on 57% of the snaps. That was obviously behind George Pickens and clearly behind Jalen Tolbert. Most of this just had to do with the fact that Sauce Gardner shadowed George Pickens for the entirety of the game, and Dak Prescott had to go somewhere else. And then obviously, as soon as CeeDee Lamb steps back onto the field, Flournoy is the 5th to 6th option, maybe. That's if they even play him over Jalen Tolbert going forward, because it's CeeDee getting a million targets, it's George Pickens getting the valuable targets, it's Jake Ferguson getting a million middle of the field targets, and it's Javonte Williams getting 20, 25 touches a game. Flournoy is a guy that, honestly, unless I'm in a 14 plus team league, I'm not even going after him on the waiver wire. 25-year-old, soon to be 26-year-old guy at a Southeast Missouri State. I'm not in on him. Same thing with Kendrick Bourne. I mean, this dude did virtually nothing this year until every single player on the 49ers was hurt, like Juwan Jennings missed, Ricky Pearsall missed, George Kittle's still out, Brandon Ayuk is out. Let's be realistic here. As soon as one or two of those guys steps back onto the field, Bourne is back to a maybe 30% rotational player. We don't have practice reports yet, obviously, for the Niners, as we won't get those until Wednesday, Thursday for this week. And I get it. It's fun to ride the momentum, but Kendrick Bourne, I mean, he's 30 years old. We know what he is as an NFL wide receiver. We think he's going 140 yards back-to-back. We think he's going over 70 yards back-to-back. Unlikely. If I had to guess, I would say Juwan Jennings plays this week. Ricky Pearsall, I'm 50-50 on. I don't know. I think Mac Jones will be the quarterback here. And I think if one of those guys plays, if it's only Juwan Jennings or if it's only Ricky Pearsall, I think Bourne is flex worthy, just riding off of this momentum. But he's an extremely low floor player that wouldn't surprise me if he ends up going, 3 for 20 and puts up a dud in your lineup. So Kendrick Bourne, I think, has almost no staying power over the long term because these guys eventually will get healthy and this team will flip things around. He'll go back to playing very, very few snaps. So I'm not spending up for him. Everyone else on the waiver wire this week is really just a pretty uninspiring stash here. Tory Horton scored his 3rd touchdown in the last 4 games, but not running enough routes, not getting enough consistent targets behind JSN and Cooper Kupp. Will probably need an injury to one of those two guys. Definitely want to own him and stash him in 12 plus team leagues, but not a guy that you can really start with any sort of confidence. Jalen Coker, they opened his practice window, so he will be back soon. He's a guy I would stash. And then Isaiah Bond, he did run 80% of the routes again on Sunday. And I do think this Browns team, the theme of the episode here, this Browns team is one that we could see make moves before the trade deadline. They could get rid of David Njoku, maybe even Jerry Jeudy, and that would open up a lot of targets, obviously, for these other wide receivers here. But Bond got a ton of air yards. Him and Gabriel clearly just did not click at all on Sunday's game in London there. But I expect that chemistry to get a little bit better. And I expect Bond to be a bit of a playmaker, sort of like Trey Tucker over the second half of the year. So Bond's another stash for me. I actually think the most interesting part of this week's waiver wire is the tight end position, because you've got one, of course, Darren Waller needs to be the most owned player on this tight end list, but you have AJ Barner go for 2 touchdowns. You have Theo Johnson go for 2 touchdowns. And then you have Mason Taylor, who's now become a consistent piece of this passing offense for the New York Jets. I put Barner and Theo Johnson kind of together in how I'm looking at them. Barner, to me, not a serious pickup here. He's a guy that scored 4 touchdowns in their last 4 games. But if you look at his receiving numbers, I mean, this is the first game in which he's caught more than 3 balls. This is the first game in which he's seen more than 3 targets. First game going over 32 receiving yards. So those are the type of players that are extremely touchdown dependent, really low floor players. The type of guy that you pick up and you say, oh, he's kind of on a hot streak, and then he goes 2 for 17 and you put up 3 points in your tight end position. You're like, why the fuck did I pick that guy up? AJ Barner, while he did play on 80% of the snaps, he's a good blocking tight end. And he's actually running a route on only 60% of their dropbacks in Seattle, which is another, liability if we're looking at the balance sheet here for Seattle, because their rookie tight end, Elijah Arroyo, is running a decent amount of routes. He's not really producing at a high level, but he's almost strictly a pass catching tight end, which kind of forces Barner into a little bit more of a blocking role. So Barner, I'm not overly interested in. He's a streaming option, but he's whatever. Theo Johnson, I think, is a little bit interesting. He's only 10% rostered. He's coming off of a 6-catch, 33-yard, 2-touchdown game. I think the hype is going to get a little bit expanded to the point where it's not realistic. I get it. Touchdowns in back-to-back games. Another guy like AJ Barner 33 receiving yards. Like his season high is 34. He's getting end zone looks, which is fine, but this was also a game where Jackson Dart dropped back and threw the ball 40 times, which is not going to be the norm. So I don't expect like a ton of targets going his way. Daniel Bellinger, the other tight end, actually led the team with 42 receiving yards in this one. The upside case here is the fact that Darius Slayton pulled his hamstring and could miss anywhere from, 1 to 3 weeks right now, which would raise the volume of all these guys. But the next few matchups, I mean, you get Philadelphia, at Denver, at Philadelphia, San Francisco. So that's a really tough run out of the next 4 games. Theo Johnson, listen, you can convince yourself that he's a good streaming option. I just think another one, very touchdown dependent, very low floor player. If you don't get that score, you're looking at a problematic guy in your tight end spot. But Mason Taylor to me is very interesting. He's a guy, we liked coming out, early second round pick, and has now put together back-to-back really usable days. You have 3 straight games of 6 or more targets. You have back-to-back games of 5+ catches. You have back-to-back games of 65+ receiving yards. Fields doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns, which is going to be the bear case for him. But if he's this involved in the offense, running 80 to 85% of the routes, he's legitimately their second best pass catcher behind Garrett Wilson right now. They don't have a real wide receiver too. He is their starting tight end running every route. They're continuously throwing the ball a ton because they're always in catch-up mode. Now, they did just play Miami and Dallas, so obviously those are very plus matchups. Denver's going to be a much tougher test, but they get Carolina after that. They get Cincinnati after that before their bye. So I think he's absolutely streamable in 2 of their next 3 weeks. He's a very, very, very reliable target on a team that is quite literally like the opposite of what reliable is. He's not a high explosive player. He's not a guy that's going to make a ton of guys miss after the catch, but he's going to catch basically everything thrown his way. And Justin Fields clearly starting to trust him now. I mean, 12 targets last game is legitimate. So if I'm looking at all the tight ends on the waiver wire this week, Taylor would be the guy that I want to prioritize. He's the guy that I think long-term could be an impact player for your fantasy lineup in PPR leagues. Outside of that, I mean, Taysom Hill obviously needs to be talked about. A tight end getting 6 carries. He'll get a rushing touchdown eventually. He needs to be owned because he's Taysom Hill, and you just can't bet against him in the Saints offense. He somehow every single year comes through and becomes a fantasy relevant tight end. Literally ran 3% of the routes. So it doesn't look like his tight end spot is actually going to be what we've been used to, at least not for right now. They feel pretty good about Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau running a lot of the routes, but Taysom Hill's just going to be used in so many different ways that he'll get home eventually. Oh, and the other one that I definitely need to bring up is Michael Mayer. Not on the trending up tab, but if you need a streamer for the next couple of weeks, I think Michael Mayer could be fire. All right. We got Brock Bowers with the bone bruise. The injury, a little more serious than let on. He needs to rest it. He's very, very likely going to miss this week. And I would say they have a week 8 bye. So misses week 6, might as well rest him week 7. Let him get healthy after the bye, and you might have Michael Mayer for the next 2 weeks. Now, he is also coming back from a concussion. He did not clear the concussion protocol last week, so not a guarantee that he does in week 2, but most players do clear the concussion protocol after 1 game. We saw Albert O suit up. It was the first time he touched a football field this entire year, saw 6 targets. So they involve their tight ends a lot in this offense, right? And when it's condensed to one guy, which it will be if Michael Mayer is on the field, he has a 3-down skill set. Remember, he was a very early second-round pick by the Raiders the year before Brock Bowers came out. So I think he was overhyped as a prospect, but I do think he's a very usable streamer over the next couple weeks, assuming he clears protocol. So he's a dude that no one really has an eye on. You could throw out a 0% fab bid and I think have a really solid low-end tight end 1 in your streaming spot. For streaming defenses, they don't have them in the trending tab, but I will tell you, and I know some of these guys are not going to be available. They're not streamers, but listen, some of these teams were on bye last week and they just get dropped because their defenses. In this order, the Green Bay Packers versus the Bengals. Packers are massive favorites. We want the Packers as our number 1 streaming defense. The Rams at Baltimore, assuming Lamar misses another game. The Patriots at the Saints, like them a lot. The Colts versus the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers versus Cleveland. And the Raiders versus Tennessee. Those are my 6 favorite streaming options for defense. We can move over to the trending down tab now. Brenton Strange suffered an injury last night. I don't think we really have clarity of the severity of it. I mean, Strange is a guy that maybe you were streaming. He's probably the tight end 2 on your team. And I don't think it's necessary to hold on to 2 tight ends if you don't need them. Darius Slayton, I would hold on to. This might not be a severe hamstring strain. And listen, Malik's going to be out for the year. So Slayton maybe misses a game, maybe misses 2. I still think over the second half of the year, he's going to be a viable fill-in on bye weeks for you. So I'd hold on to Slayton. Justice Hill, I'm not super intrigued by. Ertz, I would hold on to. Chris Rodriguez, I think, is relatively droppable. Tolbert's definitely droppable. Malik Washington, I would hold on to. Obviously, I wasn't overly excited about getting him in last week's waiver wire video at all. And I think we kind of saw the run out of the way Miami's passing offense is going to go. It's like Waddle and Waller and Achane, and then everybody else is an afterthought. I'm sure Malik will have a good game or two over the next 10 weeks, but very, very unreliable. If you want to hold on to him, cool. I really wouldn't blame you if you wanted to drop him in favor of somebody else. Sean Tucker, another guy that I have no problem dropping. Taysom Hill, I would hold on to, like I said. Xavier Scott, I think, is definitely droppable. Ollie Gordon seems droppable to me. I love when they have players on here that are like 84% rostered. These are just like people that are so triggered about this player that they drop him. Or these are just like, 10-team leagues. I get it. Like half PPR, 10-team leagues. You only start 2 wide receivers. That's fine. I would definitely hold on to Judy as we see Dylan Gabriel get a little bit more acclimated to in just a high-end handcuff at this point. Would hold on to him if, you have the spot for a high-end handcuff. You will never hear me saying that you need to hold on to Marvin Mims. Alec Ayumaner, I would hold on to for sure. Mark Andrews, I would hold on to until Lamar gets back. Blake Corum, high-end handcuff, do whatever you want. Jaden Blue has not needed to be rostered since like week 2. Isaiah Davis definitely should be rostered. Brashard Smith, I believe, should be rostered. Don't need to roster Jalen Hyatt. Should roster Bond. Don't need to roster Calvin Austin. Would definitely hold on to Jawan Johnstein. Tyquan Thornton, got no problem with you dropping him, despite him being pretty much the best wide receiver up to this point in the season for the Chiefs. Can definitely drop Tommy Tremble. Do not drop Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, I mean, Pacheco's tough, man. I think you just got to continue to see it through with him. Like, I don't think you got to start him, but I would hold on to him. Brian Robinson, he's just in that high-end handcuff. Kenny G, I think at this point, you just hold on to him, right? Like, make sure that Warren is for sure playing in this upcoming week. And I do think Kenneth Gainwell probably worked himself into a little bit of a larger workload. Warren is a dude that plays like a mini Cam Scatabo, where he plays really tough and I think lends himself to probably being injured if he's going to continue to see 20 touches a game. And anytime Warren's out, Gainwell is going to be a dude who gets 90% of the opportunities. So another high-end handcuff with maybe some standalone value. Sanders, you can drop. Tyreek Hill, you could drop. Luke McCaffrey, you could drop. Darnell Mooney would definitely hold on to. Trey Benson, if you have the IR spot, I would probably hold on to, because listen, when he gets back in 4 to 6 weeks, I do think he takes over that workhorse role once again, because James Conner is going to be gone for the entirety of the year. Trey Tucker, I think, is still a good piece to have on your team. Like, Geno's looked like ass, but he's going to continue to play 90% of the routes, even led the team in targets and yards and everything last week. And with Brock Bowers probably missing another week or two, I do think the targets are going to have to go to Tucker or Jacoby Myers. So I'd hold on to Trey Tucker here. All right, and that's all I got for y'all for the week 6 waiver wire. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the button that looks like this. Subscribe down below if you want to see this next week. We'll also have our running back rankings video tomorrow, a wide receiver rankings video on Thursday, and then our Q&A sit start will be private on Saturday, but we'll go live afterwards. If you want to be in the private Q&A and ask me any sit start questions about your specific team, make sure you become a Big Dog member, bdge.co. That's how you can sign up. Otherwise, you can hit our partner app, MGM. Use code BDGE when you deposit $10 or more and play your first slip on there. They'll give you a promo code to get the Big Dog membership for free for the next 3 months. All right, I'm out of here. I will see y'all tomorrow morning. Smoochies.